Welcome to What the Health? Where anything health is fair game as we tackle the trends and bust the myths about health and wellness. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dan and Angela Toro.
And welcome to another episode of What the Health podcast. I am Dr. Dan here with two of my co-hosts,
Angela
and Dr. Riley.
Welcome back, everyone. Go ahead, go for it.
You guys know the drill at this point. We're here for informational purposes only, in no way offering individualized medical advice. As always, talk to your trusted healthcare provider. You know the drill.
Yeah.
We've done how many of these now?
Trusted healthcare provider. Hopefully we're one of them,
yes.
But, here we are. We're talking today about dealing with detox. Yeah?
Yep.
Right. So why don't we start with what the heck does it mean when we talk about detoxification? Because when you go into like the mental emotional world and, substance abuse, detoxification is a whole concept, but it certainly does tie into what we're, I think, more focused on is kind of like a detoxification from, from the foods and the toxins that we are exposed to on a daily basis. So.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, toxins, or anything that builds up in your system that's going to start to affect the natural systems of the body. So, yeah, I mean, we talk about, like you mentioned, people think of drugs and alcohol and that type of detoxification that needs to happen. But, if you're on medications for long periods of time, again, just the food, I mean, I know we've talked about this in other podcasts, but constantly seeing more and more things coming out with just the massive amounts of chemicals that are in American version of foods versus, European and Canadian, same food, but like thousands and thousands of less chemicals in it.
There was a fantastic meme that I saw the other day, and it was, it basically said across the top, me trying to avoid toxins in my food and environment. And it basically had all of these police cars and super high end vehicles chasing this person. And they were out in the front in this little little Tykes toy car, trying to outrun them. And it was just
good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck.
Yeah.
So.
That's pretty much, where we're at. So because it's becoming harder and harder to avoid the actual toxic exposure, then this idea of detoxification and how do you help your body best balance these additional chemicals and potentially harmful things that are going into our bodies. That's where the idea of detox comes in. So I don't know if you want to talk. I know you talk a lot from the cellular level, what happens with when you get this buildup and the interference and how that can even affect what you're seeing on the chiropractic side.
Yeah. So, I mean, even, so think of, your detoxification as your, essentially your main sewer line in your house, right? Your body has natural mechanisms in place to detoxify any foreign, substances or chemicals that it comes across. So, which is why we always say the first and foremost way to detoxify your body is just don't toxify it in the first place. But as you mentioned, it's getting more and more difficult in today's day and age. Even if you're eating everything organic, you're avoiding, every, type of exposure, from what you put on your body, your cleaning products, air fresheners, air purification, like your water purification. Even if you're doing your absolute best, you still have to go out into society and be a part of that. So, even those people who, are pristine in their purification and, what they eat and what they put on their bodies, still will have, toxic buildup. And they're even showing now.
And the average person is not pristine.
Oh, no, not at all. And that's the thing. That's probably less than, 1% of 1% of people who live like that. So, your average person just has an extreme massive chemicals. I mean, they're even doing autopsies now, and just showing the amount of, heavy metal toxicity in your brain tissues. And they're starting to, link that to cognitive decline and Alzheimer's and dementia. And, so where do these come from? A lot of them them come from food, they come from, the cleaning and chemical products that we use, whether it's lotions that we put on our system. So, first and foremost, going back to that example, it's like, making sure that your body's natural detoxification mechanisms are functioning at their best, right? When your sewer line is clear in your house, you can have a very shitty day. And again, you're able to, flush all of that away, with whatever's going on in your house. So, the problem is if that starts backing up, then you really have have a crappy time, because that can start backing up in your basement. It can start backing up into your, wash basins, your toilets, whatever the case. So if that main sewer line starts backing up, it's not functioning the way it's supposed to, then you can really start to have a backup of that, toxic material that is supposed to be cleared out that's not. So,
and even the smallest amount can create that.
Can create an absolute mess, because it's not getting out the way it's supposed to. So I think it's important for us to kind of talk about what those systems are in terms of, detoxification. I don't think you can talk about detoxification without discussing the liver. Your liver is, your body. My mentor always referred to it, Dr. DeMaria, he always referred to it as it's the body's oil filter, right? It's the oil, the air filter. It is what is cleansing the blood that, is pumped through your entire body. Your blood's, pumped through your body. And, as it goes through the liver, there are biochemical processes that are designed to break down these foreign components and then push them back out into, into the urine and into the feces so that it's pushed out of the body. It's detoxified. You will see a number of people, one big sign that someone is having an overabundance of toxicity in their system, is first seen on the skin, right? Mm-hmm. You get irritated skin, you get, weird rashes that come and go, eczemas that come and go. You see it a lot in teenagers, right? With the overabundance of acne. And again, a lot of times it's not just the food that they're eating, but their bodies are also going through a major hormonal change. So now their bodies are trying to, it's trying to work with the shift in their hormones going through that major, adolescent period and puberty period. So they're shifting the hormone, rates in their system. But then, if they're having an overabundance of, sugar in their system, if they're having an overabundance of seed oils is another thing that people are talking about now. Processed grains.
Artificial dyes.
Yeah. And so it's like, these things will start being exposed and, just an overabundance of acne, the eczemas, just the itchy or dry skin is a common sign. We're going into this cold and flu season, quote unquote. I'm putting out my quotes, where we're having this, change of the season. So anytime you go through a change, your body is put under stress, right? So a lot of people, their bodies are already functioning at the boiling point. Mm-hmm. And so just a little bit of a change in the season.
People are down and out.
Yeah, their bodies can't handle it. So now they have this dry cough, with the leaves changing, or now they have this mucus build up. And so the sinuses get blocked up and headaches and you just go down the line, irritable or, difficulty sleeping. So, these are all signs that the body is just overtaxed and overtoxified. I don't know if it's that word, overtoxified.
It is now.
So really it comes down to, how do we support that liver? And in conjunction with the liver is you also have to look at the immune system, right? Because your immune system is, creates these cells, what are called, natural killer cells, and these macrophages that are basically the non-specific, garbage eaters, right? They're the garbage trucks that go around. Just imagine a
Bellevue garbage truck. Yeah, not the Ross garbage truck. They won't pick up everything.
Just imagine 100,000 tiny, millions of tiny garbage trucks that just go around and pick up every little piece of trash in your system. That's what happens, in the bloodstream, and these macrophages can actually get out into, so like let's say you cut yourself, those white blood cells that are normally circulating throughout the blood. When you have a cut or an injury, those vessels actually open up, they dilate and create pores big enough so that those macrophages can get out of the bloodstream and into the areas, what's called the interstitial fluid, the areas between other cells, so that they can eat up and break up any damaged, tissue or foreign bodies, dirt, that's in that area. Again, certainly you wash a wound after you get it, but, there's, microscopic, dirts and things in there that are, not going to be completely washed off just by, washing it in water and soap. So your immune system has an amazing way to go and, detoxify your system. But again, what happens when you have artificial dyes or sugar, overabundance?
They find sugar directly limits the production of those macrophages that you were just talking about. So it's like if you're somebody that is constantly eating sugar and getting sick all the time, there's a very high correlation between that because it's directly dampening your immune system.
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind as we're heading into this, again, quote unquote, cold and flu season, and also the high sugar season.
Yeah.
It's like we got Halloween around the corner, and then from there it's just like 6 months of
we always joke about, right? It's Halloween, we go into Halloween candy, and then you go right into Thanksgiving and then it's the holidays, winter holidays, Christmas, New Year's, and then you go into Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day. So it's literally nonstop for 6 months. Yes.
Easter.
So,
but so that's so those are the big things that are then overtaxing the system. If your liver's essentially clogged up and not functioning at its max, and now your immune system's not functioning at its max.
Yeah.
It's, our bodies can only, again, we always say your body's designed to heal, but it only has has so much of a
capacity. Yeah.
Capacity.
So again, supporting what you can do, making sure a lot of people that we talk to, right? They have struggle with bowel movements, right? Yeah. They're either constipated or diarrheal, and there are, people who are experts in the digestive field that, actually argue that that's kind of like, just kind of a similar dysfunction, just kind of opposite ends of the spectrum of that dysfunction. When you're constipated, your body is not getting rid of, right? That's the backup, that's, your body is not getting rid of those toxins efficiently. You should really be at an absolute minimum. You should be having a bowel movement once a day. But really, after every time you eat, close to that. I don't know if you have a cat, you have a dog. Yep. Does your dog go pretty much after, she eats every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
especially when she was young. It was
so twice a day, So, I know what we feed our dog morning and evening, and it's like, eat, poop, and so it's it's a very routine. But how many of us as humans are eating food and it's like it'll be 2-3 days? It amazes me that some people come in and it's like, I go once a week.
Oh my god,
that's normal for them. Like, oh my gosh, talk about being backed up.
Yeah, talk about toxic
toxicity. Because then it's sitting in there.
That's
and where
your
does
waste.
it go?
It
just sits in there.
So it's sitting in your intestines, and it's not like it's being kept.
Yeah,
everything's not being kept isolated. I mean,
So it's so then those toxins from the feces literally start leaching. That's what they talk about, leaky gut syndrome. It's like it literally starts leaching from the small intestine and the large intestine and leaching back out into the into your system, right? Anyone who's ever had a sump pump fail, you look out into your yard and it's just like shit everywhere. I think this was the episode to, use an excuse to swear more.
Yeah,
Right?
man, seriously.
But there's literally crap everywhere. There's watery, feces all over the yard when your sump pump fails. And so, if you're not, evacuating, at a minimum once a day, there's a backup there. There's a problem. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to refer back to what you said, though, about the immune system and the macrophages. You're literally, dampening your ability to kind of replicate and reproduce those macrophages, but you're also drastically reducing the macrophage's ability to fight viruses and bacteria. I heard at one point, and I'd have to reference this, but your average, bacteria or your average macrophage can, fight and eat so many bacteria, per minute. If you have, a certain level of sugar intake, for every tablespoon of sugar that you add to your diet, you drastically decrease the efficiency of those macrophages because they become sluggish. So you drastically decrease the efficiency of those macrophages to go and eat up any of the damaged tissue, viruses, bacteria. So again, one other way that you're just continuing to toxify and build that back up. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think the last piece of the cycle that would be important to talk about would just be what's going on in your gut. So in the stomach, before you even get to the intestines, or early on in your intestines, because we talked about, the end result, if you're not having a bowel movement, or if you're having bowel movements too frequently, that's all starting way earlier in the process. And again, a lot of that, just when you talk about the sugar, another one, again, don't quote me on the exact number, but I remember I was talking with somebody who's done a lot of work into looking into gut and, probiotics and just why actually a lot of probiotics fail is because our guts are so far destroyed that we don't even have enough in our system for the probiotics to be effective. So
it's like putting lipstick on a pig.
Exactly.
You never heard that term? Have you ever heard that phrase before?
So again, but the sugar made me think that this person was telling me that, essentially what we're putting into what we're eating is feeding the bacteria in our gut for their next several life cycles, which again are much faster than ours. Yeah. We're talking over the course of a couple of days. But if you're thinking about, if you're eating, every time you eat sugar, that's what those bacteria are going to be eating. Every time you're eating those toxic things, that's what those bacteria are going to be eating. And that's why we're just having this breakdown of the system. So, if that gut, if that microbiome is not up to par, is not where it should be, which again, very few people are anymore because of just unfortunately what we put into our system on a regular basis. Right there, I mean, that's part of the issue is so that's where things are either going through you too quickly because they're not having the time to get broken down and processed, or they're not going through you at all because again, they're just sitting. So it's really, really important. We talked about the liver, talked about the immune system, and a lot of that comes back to just the all the way back to that gut microbiome, which is so important. And I know we've talked about before, I can't remember if we've done a full podcast on it or not, but I know we've talked about the importance of it, and they're just finding more and more how important that really is for everything that we're kind of been talking about.
So you bring up another good point then is how long it can take, when we talk about detox, right? So many people, they want, instant gratification, right? It's can I just take a couple supplements to just flush me out and be done? And it's no, that's not the answer. In fact, I've heard it's the same thing with chiropractic care. I just had this very serious conversation last night with a new patient who was kind of on the fence about whether or not he wanted to commit to a certain, a certain timeline in our office. And, again, I'm just very, upfront with people. It's we can, our hope is that you start feeling better immediately. But true health takes a lifetime commitment, right? And it's not, and again, we talk about it's a journey, right? It's not a destination. You're not just going to, I'm healthy now, and now I'm just going to go back to doing everything I was doing when I was unhealthy.
Which is unfortunately what a lot of people do.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the idea of the timeline, I've heard minimum, if you're actually going to, try and do a diet, change a diet to actually impact the microbiome, 6 months minimum, is kind of standard. So it's like these people that, now, can you take some supplements and start feeling better pretty immediately? Sure you can, but to actually get to the underlying life cycles of these bad bacteria that have just, proliferated in our guts over years and years and years, it takes time. So that's where I think, we can now talk about some of the, the points and what we do to support our body's natural detoxification systems, so, what can we do to support the gut brain axis and the microbiome, the liver, natural detoxification. What can we do to help, improve our immune system? And a lot of these points will sound familiar from other discussions that we've had. But, I think one of the most important things, that I know I have implemented in my life, and I, go on and off of it at times, but fasting, I think, is something that we've all done, to some degree in our system, in our, health, routines. So, I mean, Dr. Riley, have you,
Yeah, I implemented it for, I think, 2 or 3 years straight in chiropractic schools when I really picked up on it.
Yeah.
And it was like a 16 to 8 fast. So I would fast for 16 hours. I would eat 8 hours during the day. And looking back, I've broken that habit now, unfortunately, but life happens.
Yeah.
But when I look back on that, I was waking up 5 o'clock, go to the gym. I would have energy in the morning, and then I'd go to my 7 a.m. class. I'd be fine. I'd eat 10 to 6 every day.
Yeah.
Slept great. So I think, fasting just kind of cleansed me out. I didn't have any, I never really had terrible skin conditions, but growing up with a little bit of eczema and stuff, I haven't had any of that flare up when I was eating well, fasting as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, what Dr. Riley just mentioned is what's called intermittent fasting. And that's, IF has been, pretty well documented across the board. Although, Ange, you've done some research in the intermittent fasting, from a female perspective. And
how, like everything, it just doesn't work the same for
doesn't work the same way, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not valid. It's just, it doesn't work the same way. And a lot of that has to do with, cycles, right? And, making sure that you're feeding your body.
Yeah. There's times that the fasting directly is going to inhibit the hormones that you need, so it actually can have the opposite effect and can now again some women do it regularly and have no issues, but I noticed I did probably about 2 years of the strict 16-8, and probably when I started getting to my late 20s, it was all of a sudden my hormones went haywire and it started having the opposite effect. I started gaining a bunch of weight. I changed nothing. It was it just was all of a sudden I'm what is happening? And so I was well, the only thing I can think to change is start eating breakfast again. And I started eating breakfast again, and it was that is what it needed. So I go back and forth. I try to follow it. It is such a pain. It really sucks being a woman sometimes. But I try to just go more off of when it feels
well, and that's what
when
always
it feels right.
That's what always fascinated me about fasting, right? It's you can start and stop it so easily. You can't do that when you're on a strict medication protocol. You can't do that with a blood pressure medication or a reflux medication. You have to follow very, very strict protocols. But when you're talking about fasting, Dr. He has the complete guide to fasting. Is it? Oh shoot, I'm going to forget his name now.
Yeah.
But anyway, he talks about you can start it, and for every hour that you go without food, it's you're continuing to exponentially amplify the the results of it. And it's again, if you can get to a hunger wave and push through it, you're actually again kind of encouraging your body to go without, and then it has to tap in to these different mechanisms where it's not burning sugar as much anymore, especially once you get to that 24 to 48 hour mark. And that's about the time that the liver and the muscles have started to deplete their glycogen stores, and glycogen is just sugar that is lined up, stored in like a really long chain molecule, and it's stored in the muscles and it's stored in the liver. So once you go to about 48 hours, a lot without eating, a lot of those glycogen stores have been used up. So when you're kind of transitioning, then you're slowly flipping the switch from sugar burning to more fat burning, and that's a lot of people have heard of ketosis, or you're burning more ketone bodies then, because your body has to burn and break down fat. So you're transitioning your body from a sugar burning state, which is what most of us are in, because when food is in abundance, it's gonna tap into the easiest resource, and your simple sugars, what is available, right out of your stomach. So these simple sugar, and that's why high fructose corn syrup is so dangerous, right? Because it's like sugar on steroids. It's like this amplified, sugar. And so your body is going to tap into that because it's the easiest way to burn. It's literally like, taking a bunch of, dry toilet paper and leaves and, lighting it on fire, and boom, it just goes, right up in flames. It's very quick. Glycogen is a little bit slower than that because your body has to break down the chains, of those, simple sugar molecules. But then fat is a little bit more complicated for the body to burn, but it's like a diesel engine, because once it's going, that diesel engine can run as long as there's fat available. Your body will pull from those fat stores. And that's why, the myths and misconceptions about, you can't fast because your body's going to start to break down protein, that has just been debunked left and right. As long as your body has fat available, it is going to burn fat before protein. Yep. I mean, that's just hands down, how your body works when it is in a fasted state. The longer you can go, so we talk about intermittent fasting, but, talking about block fasting, I actually find that block fasting works well for me, where I'll go like a 36 to 48 hour period, once a week or once a month, where I'll try and go that, 1 to 2 days without eating anything. And again, there's different biochemical, processes that are turned on when you hit that fat, that you're transitioning from the sugar burning to the fat burning. So that's block fasting. And then you really have like the elongated fasting, which is really beyond 3 days, 72 hours.
And that's where they said you really get into the immunity rebuilding. So like 24, after about 24 hours, your gut microbiome will start to reset, because again, that has a very quick life cycle. So if you've now not been putting the sugar and crap into it, so that can start to reset. 48, you're going to start to get some of the dopamine reset, which is why if you can make it if anyone's ever made it to 48 hours, it's funny, that first 24 is miserable.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
And then you make it to day 2 and you're like, I feel great.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you get that dopamine boost kicked in. But then if you're dealing with a lot of like chronic illness, just chronic fatigue, things just that's really one. If you can get to 72 and beyond, that's where you really start to get that autophagy, where basically your body just wipes out all the dead junk cells that are no longer needed, and that's where you get a nice true, I would say that's really more where you're hitting the cleansing.
Yes.
Again, the 1 and 2 day fasting, absolutely great for cell rebuilding. But if you're talking a true cleanse, you want to go for that 72 plus. And again, it's you listen to your body. I mean, there's been plenty of times where, like Monday, I was like, I'm going to fast. And I was like, no.
I did the same thing. I'm like, I got to lunchtime and like, no, I'm hungry.
And like for me, I always kind of base it more off of, I'm like, okay, am I craving junk? Because then that's an indication you need to keep fasting and push through it. Or like last night, I was craving a chicken Caesar salad. I'm like, that's what I was craving. And I'm like, okay, like, so your body's craving nutrients of some kind. So that's where it's like, I listen to that. It's like, if I was craving ice cream, which I actually really never crave anymore, which is interesting since, again, doing a full sugar detox and years ago. So it's really just kind of listening to that. It's like, okay, do I want to eat just because I think I'm supposed to eat, or do I actually need some kind of...
And definitely, like, that makes just made me think of like when you're done with your fast, don't follow it up with what you did before. Like make sure you eat something that's very nutrient dense, like to age, keep pushing that process forward, because essentially just, you might feel good if you do 48 hours, but then it just kind of reverts straight back if you follow it up with a sugar
hamburger.
Yeah, it's like
nothing wrong with hamburgers, but
if you get it from the right place.
Yes. A grass-fed burger wrapped in lettuce, not the white bun.
And not with fries.
Exactly. Unless they're home cooked potatoes in an air fryer with some like avocado oil or something. Some good Celtic sea salt. You could argue that would be okay.
Avocado and eggs. That's usually what I break my fast with.
I usually break mine with bacon.
We could probably debate on that one.
Yeah, we probably debate on that. Grass-fed.
Grass-fed bacon.
Anyway, but yeah, it's literally like, how far can you push your system? Because so many people, when you first bring up the concept of fasting, I was really diving into this heavy in like 2018. And, when I was talking to my, a lot of people about, my journey with it, they're like, I could never go 24 hours without food. And it's like, most people in their lifetime, like if they've ever had a day when they were really sick and in bed, most people have gone 24 hours in their lifetime at least once without food. But so many people are like, well, I have, I get low blood sugar, so I have to eat. Like I can't. It's like, well, no, your body is having a detox reaction because you're so toxic, and your sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system is just so out of whack that they get like the clammy skin, and it's the
headaches,
the headaches, the drainage, the skin, and we all know these people who just have like this almost sickly look to them, and they're the ones that are like, it's just so, their bodies are so far toxified that it takes time to come out of that, and that's where
it's not going to feel good.
It's not going to feel good. That's exactly. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's the other thing. It's like, think about, like, if you've ever known somebody who's gone to rehab, like, it's not a fun process to get those toxins out of your system.
Yes.
Like, your body has your body has become dependent on them.
Yeah.
So it's not going to feel good when same thing. It's like when people come off of medication, you don't just stop, cold turkey. It's because, again, that we could have some very harmful effects. So when you're doing, like, when your body has gotten used to this constant intake, and then you take that away, you're gonna have reactions, like you said, the headaches, you could have nausea, you could feel lightheaded. It's, and that's not your body craving food. That's your body wanting the crap that you've been giving it along with food.
Well, and that's another thing too that people have to understand, that toxins, they're heavy in the liver, but they're also heavy in fat tissue, right? Like that's what, and what's your brain made out of? 70% fat. So like these toxins are literally hiding in your fat tissue. So when you are really shifting from a sugar burning to a fat burning state, you literally have toxins that are, kind of getting dumped into the bloodstream, because now that the fat cells are starting to shrink down, those toxins are being leached back out. And again, that's a very good thing if you're doing it through the proper channels that your body can handle, that detoxification. But yeah, it's tough. It is tough. I would probably argue that, within the last 2 decades is probably the hardest, especially in the United States, maybe not other parts of the world, but the United States, it is probably the hardest time in history to actually be healthy. Our chronic disease is just at an absolute, high rate.
It's continuing to,
and it's continuing to increase.
You just saw again the life expectancy drop.
We dropped
again.
Yeah, the life expectancy in the United States dropped in men. I think it's down to like 76, and women it's like 78. Like it's continuing to decrease. So it's like we're not getting healthier, we're getting sicker. And it's because of this chronic disease. The reason that life expectancy increased so much, early on, especially after like the Industrial Revolution, is that sanitation. We had things like trash pickup. We had things like indoor plumbing that got implemented, from the late 1800s into
hand washing.
Exactly.
God,
exactly.
It's like that is, that.
Yeah, so we had a lot less infant mortality. That decreased significantly, even though that's starting to go back up, and that's a whole other podcast. But our infant mortality, and kids running around on a farm, weren't dying, in their 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Well, if you take a 5-year-old who would have died, and now because of sanitation and antibiotics and good care, it's like that 5-year-old now lives to 80. Well, you've just increased the life expectancy of that person 75 years. Yeah. So this sanitation is what rapidly increased the life expectancy in the United States and across the world. Mm-hmm. But now what you're seeing is, we almost we tapped out the maximum, and now chronic disease is starting to bring us back down because people are dying in their 40s, 50s, 60s because of chronic illness, heart attacks, strokes, cancers,
fatty liver disease,
diabetes. How many kids, are now getting diagnosed with diabetes? And it's not the type 1 diabetes. Mm-hmm. It's juvenile onset, and it's sometimes even pre-juvenile onset, because there is just such an overexposure to all of these toxins. So what do you do? I mean, I think at the end of the day, what do you do? Fasting,
Yeah, there's a lot. Fasting, drinking plenty of water, keeping the blood circulation.
Gosh,
the amount of people that don't drink water. Like that is...
I'll plug sugar, or massage therapist.
Yes, that sugar, the good sugar.
Lymphatic massage and stuff like that. Exercise. Working out, the muscles act.
Sweating.
Sweating.
Exactly. Sauna, infrared sauna, exercise.
If you're not, I did a blog article years ago where I talked about Sweat 16. Instead of Sweet 16, Sweat 16. Oh. And it's if you could sweat 16 minutes a day.
16 minutes.
Yeah.
I sweat 16 hours a day.
Well, but that's the thing. It's you're absolutely right. That's a big detoxification, and a lot of people, when they haven't been sweating or working out, and it's and then they start to, their eyes will burn because the sweat is getting into their eyes. They will literally have a salty, rough feel on their skin because there's so much salt content in that sweat. And again, it's because they're so highly concentrated with sugar and salt that there's nowhere else to go. But it's as your body gets more efficient at sweating, then it's more the water that's being released. Mm-hmm. So you can actually improve your efficiency of your sweat. And
it's amazing if you are an efficient sweater, which I am. And then you have I would say it's if you have a day post event, if there's an event where I consumed more alcohol and then the next day go to work out, it is amazing how it's I can feel I want to sweat, I should be sweating, and then it's that clammy but nothing's coming out because I'm dehydrated, and it's a terrible feeling, especially when you're used to just I'm normally 20 seconds into a workout I'm sweating, but it just it goes to show how much our body is dependent on having enough that proper hydration, having the proper being able to, that is so important for being able to flush everything out. If that's our body, it's we are, what percentage water, and it's if we don't have that proper hydration, that's, again, everything just gets stuck in there.
Yeah. And you almost have to think of your body like a sponge, right? So you're taking water in, and what happens when you take a dry sponge and you put it on, you try and sink it in water? It's crusty and hard, but then as you squeeze it a little bit, it takes some time, but then it's then it'll start absorbing the water, but it takes some time. Mm-hmm. But if you take a damp sponge and put it in water, it immediately sucks in the water. So it's you think of your body like a sponge, and then you mentioned the exercise, Dr. Riley. It's when you engage that muscular system, you're heating up the body, and then it's literally pumping, the water through your system. Great points that, and resistance, I think, is, one of the most important. Yeah. Again, cardiovascular is certainly important, by long distance cycling or, trail running, but the resistance where you're, really working every muscle group of the body, is going to be so important for moving that fluid through your body, in a healthy way. So, and I don't think we need to sit here and beat the drum about, not eating things. It's like, how many podcasts have we talked about? It's like, don't eat things. If we just throw out a list of like things you should avoid at all costs, what would you say? Processed foods. Okay, so like break that down a little bit. Sugar, right?
Yeah, sugar.
High fructose corn syrup.
Yes.
Seed oils is the other thing that we hear a lot about. So like canola oil, peanut oil, sunflower oil, like those are all the, difficult oils. And there's a whole laundry list. If you just Google seed oils, like you'll get a whole list of things that you should avoid.
I know every time I look at stuff, I'm like, is that one you're supposed to have or not? And it's like, if I don't know, I just don't. I'm like,
exactly. And it's harder and harder to find, even when you're trying to find like a healthy, snack. A lot of things have, that used to be made with like an avocado oil or a coconut oil are now being made with seed oils. Yeah. And it's like they just transition because they're cheaper to make, and it's more money for the company. It's not good for your health. But
same with like the pre-made salad dressings. It's
salad dressings are horrible for you.
Yeah, it's like just use oil and vinegar, extra virgin olive oil and vinegar. That's
100%.
Like I don't have dressing in the house. I don't. Yeah, it's just. Yep.
It's so bad for you. The mayonnaises and the you can just go down the list. So seed oils, the sugars. Again, it's like
I would say, so what I always talk about is like pretty much everything on the inside aisles at the grocery store. Yeah. So we always talk about, now again, we've said there's concerns with things now anymore in the fresh produce too, but at least starting out, it's like if you go home, if the majority of your diet is coming from your pantry as opposed to your refrigerator, then right off the bat, that's concerning. Because again, if things are coming pre-packaged, pre-boxed, that's pre-wrapped, right there, they've been processed. There's some type, there's things that have been done to them to prolong their shelf life.
Yes, and if they increase the shelf life of the product, they're decreasing your shelf life of living.
Literally. So again, it's like not to say you can never have that stuff, but people ask me all the time. It's like, what kind of bread do you eat? I'm like, I don't. It's like if you come look, my pantry is storage for like pots and pans, not food. Yeah. I have my one probably my one little shelf of stuff, but it's just, not having that stuff on a regular basis. And they're like, oh, well, like, it's like, I go to the grocery store twice a week and buy fresh stuff. Food, yeah. I'm like, is it a pain in the butt? Yes. But it feels, pain in the butt, but good for my gut. That's what I'm saying. That's the biggest thing is it's like, okay, do I want to take the extra, hour or two out of my day, to do that versus how I'm going to feel if I continue to go to the convenience-based eating. And we have a whole podcast on that, the convenience catastrophe. That was a while back, but so I'd say I agree with the processed food and what comes in that. I'd say on top of that, then I'd say like the fast food, eating out, and that's because even when you make the best choice, you think you're making the better choices eating out, it's still gonna have they're not using high quality fats. I'm telling you right now, they're not. They put sugar.
Terrible meat.
They put sugar. Oh yeah, I don't even want to think about what.
Terrible meat.
Sugars. Yeah.
They put sugar
put sugar on the fries at McDonald's.
They put sugar on everything. Yeah, the fries, the buns. Probably because on the salads.
It's addictive, right? Especially that. And it's not good quality sugar. It's high fructose corn syrup sugar. And again, it is literally addictive. Mm-hmm. You talked about the dopamine reset earlier.
Absolutely addictive.
Sugar is addictive. It is, it has been researched that it is
that same opioid pathway.
Yeah, that cocaine does, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it literally is as addictive as cocaine. And it's sickening.
And way more easily accessible. Can't go through a drive-through and get cocaine as far as I know.
You used to be able to get it at Coca-Cola, right? But yeah, I mean, so yeah, we could just harp on this forever, but just, make common sense decisions. And if you're not sure about something, first of all, Google it, you can get some good information out there, but it's like, reach out to a trusted health professional, someone that you know and you trust, you've built a relationship with. We always talk about that. You should have a couple of those people in your life that that you can go to them. And if they don't know the answer, they know the resources to go and find it for you. So, and again, it's like, does that mean you can never have another piece of candy again, never have another drink again, adult beverage again, never have another hamburger again? Like, no, of course not. But it's like, you can't make that the majority of your eating. And we didn't even get into that. We've done whole podcasts on like what you put on your skin, cleaning products and lotions. If it goes on your skin or can get on your skin, it can be absorbed into your system. So, you have to watch. And so again, you're never going to be able to avoid it completely, but being able to help your system function more efficiently, through the water intake, through the fasting. We didn't even mention chiropractic care, but again, it's like, I love the people that get adjusted who've been constipated for, a couple days. And it's like, then they go home and they like come back the next day and it's like, could that adjustment have helped me go to the bathroom? Like, yes, absolutely. I just adjusted the shit out of you. So yeah, I mean, we can sit here and harp on all of this. It's hard, being healthy is hard, but have you all seen that, like, choose your hard?
You sent it to me.
Yeah, so it's like, choose your heart. It's like, either, eating healthy is hard, but so is going through cancer treatment is hard. Yeah. Choose your hard, it's like
going to the gym is hard.
Going to the gym is hard, but, being overweight and, getting out of bed and walking up and down steps with, degenerative joints is hard. Like, choose your hard. Mm-hmm. So, it's difficult, but, we're hopefully it's not the end of the world and you can do better. And it's like, we always talk about baby steps over a long period of time equal big results. So, find a trusted health professional you can work with, find, an accountability partner you can work with, and go make some changes. What are some simple changes you can make today? Hey, I haven't drank a lot of water recently. You told a patient recently to go, drink two big cups of water a day. She was barely drinking one. So it's like, just that little change can make a difference. So what are the little things that you can immediately do to make the biggest return? So, all right. I think we've harped on that enough. Dealing with detox. Hopefully that was helpful. If anything, rang true to you, feel free to reach out. Website, Turo, Turo, familychiropractic.com. And again, ton of resources available. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you at the next one.
All right. See you guys.
You've been listening to What the Health with Dr. Dan and Angela Toro, brought to you by Toro Family Chiropractic. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.whatthehealth.world.